Previously, Mash has been born without magic, which is problematic since it is the most important thing in society. Those who can use magic have a mark on their face, while those without the mark are eliminated. While having a hard time, Bernadette finds the abandoned baby Mash and raises him. Through the years, he did a lot of weight training and older Mash is now a physical specimen. One day the magic police catch wind of his existence and attack him and his dad, but he manages to defeat them without magic, which surprises everyone. The leader of the unit named Brad promises that they will continue to hunt him down, but he proposes that if Mash becomes the best student in magic school, he will not report him as it would mean that society has accepted him. Things continue with Mash eating cream puffs in his dorm while his roommate does some studying. He interrupts Finn to ask if he could lend him his broom for his class the following day. The guy brought a giant plant root thinking it was a broom, which surprises Finn. Finn concedes and agrees to allow him to borrow it. Mash expresses his gratitude, commenting that he knew that his roommate was a great guy. The following day, the students gather in an open space where the tutor introduces the broom riding lesson. She explains that one must channel magic energy into the broom and command it with the cue word fly. The next step is to straddle the broom and regulate the magic to keep it afloat. She instructs them to begin immediately. The students begin to command their brooms one at a time. I am interested to see how Mash is going to get away with this one. Before he begins, he reaffirms the reason why he must succeed before he commands his broom to fly, but nothing happens because of his lack of magic power. As he stands there unable to lift his broom, a student begins to mock him for not being able to complete the task and comments on how he's slowing down the rest of the class. Mash responds by lifting the broom with a stamp of his foot, but he delays his fly command. The student watches gobsmacked for a moment before calling Mash out on the cap of his lift. He calls him a cheater, noting that his broom flew up before he commanded it, but the magicless guy behaves oblivious to his comments. Their interaction is interrupted when the teacher announces time trials that will be held to determine who the fastest student is. The student decides to use it as an opportunity to wager against Mash. The loser has to submit to the winner till they graduate. Mash agrees, so they line up prepared to race as the tutor stands ready to get the thing started. The student is very confident that he will win because, unlike the transfers, he has been riding brooms since middle school. The tutor recognizes Mash as the class clown that interrupted the lesson with his OP strength. Based on his past performance, she doesn't think that he can even ride a broom. As soon as she begins the race, Mash already dashes to the end. The student is left gobsmacked again at what he just witnessed. The feat gets the tutor in an irate state as she comments on his incredible speed and announces multiple times that a new world record has been set. His classmates are confused about what just happened. Finn internally reveals that he got a good look at what Mash just did. As soon as the teacher said start, the guy launched the broom and immediately dashed toward it at high speed. Mash turned into a physicist and used the air resistance to decrease his approach, which also gave him the chance of closing the gap and mounting on the broom midair. Finn can't even fathom how that's even possible. All the while, the arrogant student runs over to Mash, adamant that he must have cheated, refusing to believe what he just witnessed. Mash only comments that he feels bad for him as he can't face the fact that he lost. He even adds insult to injury by telling him that he will drop the wager out of pity. Just before the arrogant student can run his mouth, it suddenly gets sewed shut by Cabell, who comments that he shouldn't make a scene. With a fake smile, he apologizes on his behalf for his rudeness, revealing that the arrogant student is his friend. The other students watch on, worried at the fact that Cabell is talking to Mash, and they comment that he's a target now. They all agree to stay out of it as they don't want any trouble, but they feel bad for Mash as he is Cabell's first victim now that they have moved to high school. The bootleg Draco Malfoy admits that the feat he just performed caught his attention and offers friendship with Mash. Cabell introduces himself and Mash completely butchers his name to the point most would take it as an insult. The whole class falls silent after hearing that name butchering. Cabell tries to hide his frustration and prepares to cast a spell. However, the teacher stops and interjects, reminding him that they are in the middle of a class. Wish Malfoy finds Mash funny and suggests that they meet again at their current location after school. The magicless student agrees. After the lesson, Cabell pulls the arrogant student to a secluded place and begins to beat him for losing in such a spectacular fashion. Meanwhile, the roommates walk the corridors when Mash wants to know more about Cabell. Finn begins his exposition by stating that Cabell is a continuing student from the Academy Middle School Division just like him, Everyone is afraid of him because his father is a high-ranking member of the Bureau of Magic, and the organization is absolute in their world. Mash gives shifty eyes as he states that he knew that when he was oblivious to the fact. Finn simplifies it by saying that once someone stands against him, they would get expelled. The vice principal of the academy has close ties with the bully's family. This malicious duo has tormented countless students, which is why everyone obeys and fears the guy. After school, Mash bakes cream puffs as making them from scratch once in a while is fun, but he feels like he's forgetting something important. His hunch is true because Cavil and his lackeys are waiting for him, and the guy is irate that he has not shown up yet. The following day, Mash removes his books in preparation for the next class and notices that it's in a bad state and just comments that it is falling apart. Cavil's lackeys watch on laughing since they know there is something more sinister going on. Their boss comes to confront Mash about not attending their meeting the previous day. He realizes that was his hunch and apologizes, explaining that he was making cream puffs, which enrages Cavil, but he changes the topic as he has caught wind that Mash is aiming to be the divine visionary. He uses his close relationship with the vice principal to promise him a favorable word. All Mash has to do is follow his orders, so the magicless guy quickly agrees to the terms and conditions without reading the fine prints. But he does find it strange that such a deal has come all of a sudden. Cavil informs him that he just wants to help him out because he seems like a fun person. He has Mash hold their items, polishing his shoes among other things. He gets back to his next lesson and finds that that book was destroyed again. He asks Finn if he can share and imposes himself even though the guy is reluctant. Mash thanks him again for all his help and even gives him some cream puffs to show his appreciation. He ends it by stating how lucky he is to have a great guy like him as a friend. Later on, Mash gets a drink for Cavil, but he deliberately pours it on the floor and asks him to clean it, which he does to a high level. During that interim, it is revealed that it was Finn under the orders of Cavil who was destroying his books. They want him to take things a step further and burn his clothes, but the kind words Mash spoke to him earlier gives Finn the courage to refuse. Cavil wastes no time and activates his thread spell that pins Finn to the ground. The boss informs him that he has made a mistake, which is why he must drop down and beg for forgiveness. All the while, Mash looks for Finn when he realizes that he still has his book. The magicless student hears the sound of someone getting beaten up and goes to check it out. He arrives to find Finn on the ground bleeding. Cavil tells Mash that he is only getting an apology from the guy. Mash makes his way over to Finn to make sure that he's okay, but Finn doesn't care about his current state. He begins to cry, confessing that it was him that destroyed his books under the orders of Cavil. Mash, calling him a friend, hit him deeply, so he is compelled to apologize to him. Cavil tries to manipulate Mash by informing him that he is heading to meet with the vice principal and drops him an invite proclaiming that it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Mash just walks up to him and bounces his head off the floor, knocking him out instantly. He instructs Cavil that he is the one who needs to apologize. The bully's lackeys are shocked by what Mash just did, giving the status of Cavil. Finn tells him that his actions will get him expelled. After rethinking everything, he realizes that what he has just done may land him in some hot water. Vice Principal Farman appears out of nowhere and agrees with Mash's statement. He reveals that Cavil's father has entrusted him to look after his son. He witnessed the entire incident. Mash is happy to hear this because that means his name will be cleared. But to his shock, Farman plans to twist the situation to make Mash look like the aggressor, and even tells them that a school conference will be held regarding their roles in this incident. The vice principal begins to explain that Cavil is of a higher status, which means he gets different treatment. Before he can finish his explanation, Mash makes his situation worse by dashing over and kneeing the vice in the face. Finn and the lackeys almost die from shock. Mash explains that he only attacked because it seemed like Farman wasn't interested in the truth. So while he's already in hot water for his first attack, this second one wouldn't make a big difference in his current standing, which is a fair point. Farman holds his face as he complains that Mash just assaulted him. He informs him that he can expel ordinary students like him at any time. He tries to attack the magicless student, but he counters by slapping mud in his face. Mash begins to dig, and he places the vice inside before covering it. Mash threatens him that he can be buried alive at any time. Even if he's apprehended, he will find him and bury him. The vice pleads for him to stop as he throws mud to cover him up. Later on, Mash is summoned to the principal's office. Wahlberg reads his transgressions and informs him that this incident is seen as a problem at the Bureau of Magic. He received a notice from them to expel him immediately. The headmaster states that the Bureau is the country's highest legal authority. He will even go as far as to say that they control the country. At the core of the organization are the Divine Visionaries. The Academy furnishes the Bureau with those who attain the top honors at the Academy. Given Cavil's status, what he has done is unforgivable, But what Wahlberg finds more egregious is a world where the caring is at a disadvantage. As he burns the Bureau's notice, he discloses his concern about the current state of things in the world. This was the main reason he took the position as headmaster of the academy years ago. He sees that at the top, things only work to serve the elites. He acknowledges that there are so few people like Mash who sacrifice themselves for what is right. The divine visionaries who lead the Bureau have their role to carefully consider what people desire, which is why he hopes that someday Mash will become a divine visionary. He tells the headmaster that he already plans to become one, so the old guy is happy to hear this. Mash gets information overload when he tries to explain how to achieve that goal, so he simplifies it, stating that he should earn high marks in his classes and school activities and acquire as many coins as possible. Wahlberg promises to deal with the Bureau and the vice principal. This will leave Mash to concentrate on achieving his goal. As the student leaves, Wahlberg sees one more problem that Mash will eventually face, but he has faith that he will overcome it. Mash makes his way back to his dorm where Finn waits. He ended up with no punishment. However, his beating of Cavill and the vice gained acknowledgement from the other students. The following day, he is recruited to play duello by Tom despite enlightening him that he can't ride a broom. The day of the match arrives, and the crowd goes wild. All the players float on their broomsticks as they play the game. Mash tells them that he can't fly, so they start to heckle him by throwing things at him. That brings the episode to an end.